Welcome, my friends. This is Dharma Walks. I'm Chris, and I hope you'll walk with me today. So today I'm introducing you to this new channel, Dharma Walks, and I just want to talk about what my intention is here and what you can expect from this channel. So this year, I'm planning on taking a walk down the west coast of the United States. So I'm going to cut to editor Chris for a moment to look at the map and talk about the plan of the walk.
Hello, everyone. So this is future editor Chris, and here we are looking at the United States. I'm currently up there at the little blue circle up there in upstate New York, and I'm going to be making my way across the country by plane, train, and automobile over here to the Olympic Peninsula. I'll be going up here through Nia Bay all the way to Cape Flattery, and there's a beautiful lighthouse out here. Maybe I'll see it. Looks like it's on an island. We'll see if I can get to it or not. I'm not sure. And then I'm just going to start walking about 15 miles a day down the coast of Washington through the Olympic National Peninsula. I'll be taking some trails, and eventually I'll hit the 101 and cross into Oregon. We'll take this beautiful bridge across the Columbia River into Astoria, Oregon. Then I'll be following the 101 still. Be walking through some familiar territory that I've biked and driven in the past. Go through all these lovely places. Walking. We'll pass into California here, into the redwoods, and we'll be seeing some of my favorite places in the world, such as the Arcata area, where I've lived in the past a couple different times. Then we'll keep walking south through Humboldt into Mendocino County. So many beautiful little places along the coast here. And then we're just going to keep going. South. We'll just keep walking for a couple months into San Francisco. Really looking forward to it. 15 miles a day. It's probably going to take about 75 days.
All right, so that's the rough plan. And I want to speak on why I'm making this channel and why I'm presenting this content. The traveling and the walking is going to be a big part of it, but it's going to be more of the canvas and the background for me to explore my true intention, which is going to be exploring spirituality. And that's kind of a big term, and there's a lot to unpack there. But exploring spirituality and sharing my journey in this life with that spiritual lens. And I say there's a lot there because spiritual in our world today, in our culture, carries a lot of connotations, and it carries a lot of baggage, and it carries a lot of conceptual stuff. And that conceptual stuff looks different for everybody. So even saying the word spiritual these days online through a video carries a lot in it. But in the simplest way, I want to share what reality is like for me, for this body, what that's going to look like walking down the West Coast and whatever journeys await me beyond that. And I want to offer spiritual friendship for any who find this channel. Now, in that same vein, I think a good way to approach what you can expect here is being precise with the name of the channel, Dharma Walks. So walks is quite straightforward. We don't really need to talk about that term. But the term Dharma is another loaded term, and it exists in many different traditions and in many different contexts. So how am I meaning Dharma as it pertains to this channel? Well, Dharma shows up for Buddhism. A lot of people, I think of Buddhism first when they hear Dharma. And Dharma exists for Hinduism, the ancient Vedic tradition. And it exists in other contexts as well. And how I'm meaning it here is not precisely Buddhist, not precisely Hindu or Vedic, but more all-encompassing and not vague, but more general and more inclusive. I'm meaning Dharma in all those senses. I'm calling this channel that because universal truth, right action, the right way of living, and the right way to be with each other as beings on this planet is what I want to explore here. So you're walking with me. I know I'm sitting right now, but there will be walking. So you're walking with me, and we're all walking through this life together. And as Ram Dass said, we're all walking each other home. So I invite you to walk with me on the road of Dharma. And with that comes a huge disclaimer. And that disclaimer is, and this is very important, I absolutely do not present myself as a teacher. I do not present myself as a guide. I do not present myself as any sort of authority on the path. You know, to be a bit melodramatic and cliche about it, I'm but a humble pilgrim on the path, like we all are. So, as this channel progresses, I am going to discuss some of the wisdom of those great masters who've come before and explore some of their teachings. And in presenting the teachings of masters, I do so to share them, and I'll be presenting the things that have touched me and are very important to me. And I hope they find you in your heart as well. But in that context, I present no authority myself. I'm just here living my life. I'm going to be walking down the coast and having a good time and talking about spirituality. So with that, I'll mention that I'm going to be making a Patreon page for Dharma Walks. I'll be new to Patreon. I don't have a lot of experience there, but I'm looking forward to it because on that page, I want to have some community chats all about life and spirituality. And, we could call them Dharma Talks. And I'm really looking forward to some people showing up there, and we can all talk about life together in a very general sense, and in some cases, very specific senses. So be looking for that. I'm imagining by the time I post this video, I'll maybe have made that page. So check the description below, and maybe I'll pop up a little link here on the screen if it's available. And on that page, I hope to, gather the community together, the Sangha, and we can have a lot of fun there, talking about life. And with that, let's talk about the timeline of my journey. So this is Lake Champlain behind me. It's a beautiful valley lake. I'm in upstate New York. On the other side there is Grand Isle. That's part of the state of Vermont. And on the other side of that island is the mainland of Vermont. And you can see the Green Mountains of Vermont behind me. I'm in Point Rush State Park, in the town of Shazy. And this is actually the town where I grew up as a child, from ages 0 to 18. And I used to come here as a baby and as a child and as an adolescent, and now as an adult. And this place is very special to me. And I've been living back home in this area for about 8 years now, raising my son. I have a 6.5-year-old son, and he is absolutely beautiful and absolutely wonderful. And I feel very blessed in this life. And I feel very blessed to have been living here, where I grew up, and to be raising my son here. And I'm very excited for this summer because I haven't had the opportunity to travel for some years now, traveling in a long term sense. I've done some short traveling, but no extended traveling. So that's the context of my life right now. It's the first week of June 2025, and in about a month I'll be finding my way over there to the Olympic Peninsula, be going out there to the tip, Cape Flattery, and I'll be walking south to San Francisco. And it's going to be a blessed and very important time for this body and this mind. A time for reflection and discovery and fun, childlike wonder. That sense of beginner mind, of childlike mind, is what it's all about. Because when the mind is quiet, that's when we can hear the silence. And that's when true wisdom and true knowledge emerges. And I hope to take you on that journey with me. That's why I'm inviting you on my walk. I'm very excited for you all to join me and to be hearing from you as I walk. Right now, I'd like to speak on what kind of content in terms of spiritual nature you can expect. I've already broke down Dharma and said I'll be covering all meanings of Dharma in some sense. I don't mean Dharma in any specific way. And that leads me to saying I'm not going to be pushing on you any specific lineage or teaching. I'm going to be sharing what my life is like and what's coming up for me daily and what's connecting with me daily. So right now, the teachings that I've been really living with have been the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. And of course, that's Advaita Vedanta. And if you don't know a lot about that, I encourage you to research Advaita Vedanta, to research Ramana Maharshi. Because I'd say for six plus months at least, I've been sitting mostly with the teachings of self-inquiry and the non-dual truths that live behind the mind and through the mind. And it's really interesting to talk about. And it's interesting to be living this beautiful life in the context of those teachings. Because like Prajnaparamita in Buddhism, self-inquiry and Advaita Vedanta is really a non-teaching. It cuts through conceptual teachings and encourages one's mind towards the direct experience of absolute reality. to identify and sit with the light that lights the mind, the self within the self, the I within the I. And what a beautiful thing that is. To sit here on this rock with this lake lapping around me. And to feel awareness flowing, to feel awareness sitting, to feel awareness seeing. As is said in this teaching, or this non-teaching, reality must always be real. Reality, in this sense, is that which is always real, that which does not change. And what does not change in this life? Doesn't everything change at all times? Aren't your cells dying and multiplying as we speak? Isn't this water dynamically flowing? Isn't this air moving? Isn't the sun burning and shining? Everything has changed. All of life is the flow of entropy, the flow of energy. It's light vibrating. It's by its very definition change. But the question there is, what experiences all the changes? Is there an absolute experiencer, a background awareness that does not change, but is witness to all that does change? And that's the crux of the issue. It's the knot that ties awareness to embodiment. We are embodied. I wouldn't be here talking and you wouldn't be there watching if we were not embodied in physical reality. And Advaita Vedanta does not deny samsara, it does not deny Maya, it does not deny the experience of embodiment. But it says that it is not ultimately real, in that it is transitory. Reality, capital R, reality, in this sense, is unchanging and is not transitory. It is not even eternal or infinite. It only is. Change, eternity, infinity, time, space, all require duality. And we're experiencing duality, aren't we? We're experiencing duality every second of our lives. In this body and in this mind. But around that, within that, outside that, behind that, isn't there that which is not dual? Isn't there that which holds all these things? Isn't that the unchanging reality that we all have in common? And isn't embodiment too that which is? That's what I'd like to explore on this channel. And I'd like to explore the Dharma as deeply as we possibly can. What does the truth look like for the mind? What does the truth look like without the mind? Isn't it hard to talk about truth outside of the mind while using the mind? Now that is tricky. And that's what makes the utterly simple so supremely difficult. Everything is pure simplicity. It could not possibly be any simpler, for it just is. We already all are that which is. But what a quagmire when we forget to just be. And aren't we all doing that every day? We're all forgetting to just be. And we're identifying with the mind and the body and the world and the sense experiences of the world. And we live in those identifications. And that's fine too. We can't deny or reject our experience. That's why we're here. That's why we're walking through life. But the answer is ever present. The answer is this. There's so many fascinating discussions to have within that story. Within that story of what is absolute for Hinduism, what is absolute for Buddhism, what is absolute for you as you live every day. Hinduism says there is the Atman, there is that universal self, the Parabrahman, that which always is, the self of all selves. Buddhism says there is the not self, the anatman, the emptiness even in ultimate awareness and consciousness. So while Hinduism says there is the absolute self behind awareness, Buddhism says there is that irreducible emptiness of pure awareness, like open space. And in these traditions, and I mean all the deepest respect to these traditions, because I know those orthodox members of these traditions may be insulted by this. But for me, as I sit here and as I walk through life, the absolute self and the emptiness of awareness are one. For me, there are no distinctions between those two. They are one. And to talk about it conceptually doesn't really get anywhere. We just have to be it. We just have to be it in this singular moment, which is eternity. So with that, please check for my Patreon link. And I'd like to take a little walk with you now. Let's take a walk through Point of Rush. And let's have a little listen to Ramana Maharshi. I think I'm going to read for you a few verses from the supplement to the 40 verses on reality. So Ramana Maharshi was asked to give an essential teaching that transmitted the true meaning of his realization as simply and as succinctly as possible. and he gave 40 verses on reality. And then he gave a supplemental additional 40 verses. So there's 80 verses. And I'd like to read for you now, some verses from that second half, that second 40. So let's walk, my friends. Be well.
That which is the support, the soul, the source, the purpose and the power of all this world, the reality behind all this appearance, that indeed exists. Let that, the truth, abide in our heart. In the company of sages, attachment vanishes, and with attachment, illusion. Freed from illusion, one attains stability, and then liberation while yet alive. Seek therefore the company of sages. Not by listening to preachers, nor by study of books, not by meritorious deeds, nor by any other means, can one attain that supreme state, which is attainable only through association with the sages and the clear quest of the self. When one is learned to love the company of sages, what for are all these rules of discipline? When a pleasant, cool southern breeze is blowing, what need is there for a fan? Fever is overcome by the cool light of the moon. Want by the good, wish-yielding tree, and sin by the holy Ganges. These three, fever and want and sin, all flee at the holy sight of the peerless sage. Holy rivers, which are only water, and idols, which are made of stone and clay, are not as mighty as the sages. For while they make one pure in course of countless days, the sage's eyes, by a mere glance, purify at once. You ask, who is God? He who knows the mind. Response, myself, the Spirit, knows my mind. Therefore you are God, and also one declares that there is only one God, the knower. By what light do you see? The sun by day, the lamp by night. By what light do you see these lights? The eye. By what light do you see the eye? By the mind. By what light do you know the mind? Myself. You then are the light of lights. Yes, that I am. In the center of the heart cave, there shines alone the one Brahman. As the I, the Atman, reach the heart by diving deep in the quest of the self, or by controlling the mind with the breath and stay established in the Atman. In the lotus of the heart is pure and changeless consciousness in the form of the self. When the ego or the I am the body idea is removed, this consciousness of self bestows liberation of soul. The body is like an earthen pot, inert, because it has no consciousness of I, and because daily in bodiless sleep we touch our real nature. The body is not I. Then who is this I? Where is this I? In the heart cave of those that question thus, there shines forth as I, himself, the Lord Shiva of Arunachala. Who is born? It is only he who asks, whence am I born? That is truly born in Brahman, the prime source. He indeed is born eternally. He is the Lord of saints. He is the ever new. Cast off the notion, this vile flesh am I, and seek the ceaseless bliss of self. To seek the self while cherishing this perishing flesh is like trying to cross a stream by clinging to a crocodile. The way of charity, penance, sacrifice, dharma, yoga, and bhakti, and the goal of heaven, reality, peace, truth, grace, silence, stability, deathless death, knowledge, renunciation, liberation, bliss. All this is only ceasing to think that the body is the self. What is action, or devotion, or a union, or knowledge? It is to inquire, whose is this action, or indifference, or separateness, or ignorance? Inquiring thus, the ego vanishes, to abide as the self, wherein these eight have never been. This is true existence. Not realizing that they themselves are moved by an energy not their own, some fools are busy seeking miraculous powers. Their antics are like the boasting of a cripple who says to his friends, "If you raise me to my feet, these enemies are nothing before me." Since the stilling of the mind is true liberation, and miraculous powers are unattainable without an act of the mind, how can they whose mind is set on such powers enter the bliss of liberation, which is the ending of all activity of the mind?